Gee, Ray, what do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
Hey guys, this is Miss Meyer with another episode of the Miss Meyer Show. It is your first Miss Meyer Show in the year 2019. So that's really crazy because I started making these videos in 2013. So that's a really long time. So what we're going over now is we are on Chapter 8, which is Louisiana in the New South. And this is what it looks like in your textbook. So what we're doing today's video is going to be Chapter 8, Part 1, and then we'll go on to Chapter 8, Part 2, and maybe even Chapter 8, Part 3. We will see. So let's start to review it, okay? So one of the first things you'll see when you look at your book is you will see here a picture of Mr. Louis Armstrong, who is what now our international airport. New Orleans is now Armstrong International Airport after Louis. If you have never heard any of Louis' songs, we're on a first name basis, obviously, Jennifer and Louis. I encourage you, go and listen to them. They're amazing. One of my favorite songs that he has ever recorded is Do You Know What It Means to Miss New Orleans? And it's amazing. It truly is amazing. And I have this, let me move that poinsettia leaf. It's still there. It's still there, sorry. I still haven't gotten rid of my Christmas decorations, which is a little nutty because I usually, as soon as my husband tells me this, he's like always getting on me about this, but I mean like Christmas Day, no, not Christmas Day, like the day right after Christmas, I'm usually like, let's take it all down. But he's like, no, don't take it down because he loves it. But this will all be coming down today. I promise you. Today. I have the boxes ready in the garage because he's not here to, cry and be like, oh, you're taking down all the Christmas. So I'm just going to take him down when he's not here. So I come home, it's going to be gone. That's my main plan here. So, okay. But anyway, definitely check out Louis Armstrong if you've never heard anything that he sang or wrote or played. He was an excellent musician. Okay. So now, Louisiana, after the Civil War, as you know, the South lost. Louisiana was part of the Confederate States, and we lost that war. When we were part of, the Confederate States, not we as in, you know what I mean. Okay, so anyway, so when Louisiana had lost as part of the Confederate States, the Reconstruction began, and first Louisiana became a military district until they had met the certain criteria that was established in order for them to be part of the United States again. Now, during Reconstruction, there were many rules and, things that had to happen. There was a lot of military presence that was trying to really kind of restructure the South so that it was a place where, it wasn't completely equal by any means, but it was a place where they were moving forward. They were progressing forward. Well, when Reconstruction ended, the military presence left Louisiana, that things started to kind of fall back the way they used to be. And that's because people that had once been in power, during the antebellum time and the period, right before and even during the Civil War, started to get right back into power. And they wanted to make things very similar to the way that they were before the Civil War. Now, these people gave themselves a name, and they call themselves the Bourbon Democrats. The reason they did this was not because they're a bunch of alcoholics that like to drink bourbon, although I'm sure there were some of them in there that did that. The Bourbons in France, now you remember we going all the way back to LaSalle and to Bienville and Iberville, when France had come and officially colonized Louisiana and said, we claim this for King Louis of France. It was a monarchy. Well, after the French Revolution and after Napoleon and after all of the big hoopla of, killing Marie Antoinette and the king and the reign of terror and Robespierre, there were a group of individuals in France that they call themselves the Bourbons, who wanted things to go back to the way that they were under King Louis and Marie Antoinette. There was an extreme gap, a gulf between rich and poor before the French Revolution. And the Bourbons kind of wanted to recreate that a little bit and to make it so that there was still the control of France was in the hands of those, rich and wealthy people. And that's what they wanted. Well, The Democrats in Louisiana at this time, not all of them, just the Bourbons, they kind of wanted a similar thing to happen to Louisiana, whereas they wanted the way the antebellum South was run, the way Louisiana was run, to kind of come back. So they called themselves the Bourbon Democrats. Now, their MO, their main operative, or what they say, or what you're going to be asked on your test, is what they wanted was to turn back the clock in political and social issues in Louisiana to before the Civil War. Well, before the Civil War, there was slavery. So because of the 13th, 14th, and the 15th Amendment, there is no more slavery. So they had to kind of figure out a way of how they would kind of reinforce the whole, inequality of humanity, basically, without going into slavery. So that was kind of what they were trying to do, because obviously the Constitution had outlawed slavery. However, they were trying to kind of, what is it called? Oh gosh, I guess go through make it loopholes. That's what that's what they were trying to do, is to create loopholes to go back and kind of change things without actually going against the Constitution. Okay, so inside this party, okay, there were, we had talked before, there were many different ideas of what was Reconstruction, or what it meant to reconstruct Louisiana. And there were 3 different groups that were really big in Louisiana at this time. Not everybody was a Bourbon Democrat. There were 3 big political groups, 2 other groups in addition to the Bourbon Democrats. And in this party, the Democrats were divided on how to achieve the Reconstruction. So they came up with 3, they had 3 different, like I just said, 3 different groups. I'm just re-saying what I said. I'm probably going to cut that out, but maybe not, because I absolutely hate editing these things. They take forever, so I just might leave it in. I'll probably leave it in if you want to know the truth. Being straight up. All right, so you had the patricians. Now, the patricians, if you guys remember in world history, learning about ancient Rome, they were the patricians and the plebeians. The patricians were like the really high upper class, and the plebeians were your low people, like me. I'd be a plebeian. But we had the patricians, we had the lottery company, and we had the Bourbon Democrats. Now, these were the 3 big factions that were running Louisiana at this time. This is what was going on. You had these 3 big, if you want to say we're making a pie, that's like a rectangle, but say we're making a pie and we're going to separate it into 3 equal, I guess not really be equal, but it would 3 factions of who was running Louisiana around 1877, right after the Civil War. It would be the plebeians, the lottery company, and the Bourbon Democrats. They were all had a huge hand in running Louisiana. First off, the patricians. These are going to be your high class, your really rich people of Louisiana, the very wealthy, the top 1%. Because we've known this since the very, very beginning of Louisiana with LaSalle, is that Louisiana was the majority poor farmers. We did not have this huge population of super wealthy people. We didn't. We weren't like New York. We didn't have the Rockefellers and the Carnegies and the Vanderbilts. We didn't have that. You had some rich people, yeah, but they were very few and far between. The majority of people in Louisiana were poor farmers. And that's what we're going to see as we move forward to the progressive movement, how things kind of change again, okay? Because the political climate in Louisiana has constantly been shifting. It's a pendulum, okay? It goes back and forth, back and forth. You know how I absolutely hate when people say, oh, the good old days, or the way things were. I'm like, what are you talking about? There was always strife. There was always fighting. There was always crazy stuff. There was never the good old days. You don't know what you're talking about. But I'll get off my soapbox right now because, I'll go off on a tangent. You know that I will, but I'm going to try and, protect you and not go crazy with that one right now. But, okay, so we talked about the patricians. These are your very wealthy people. That's like your governor. So these people did have a big say in Louisiana. I mean, they held the big offices. The governor of Louisiana at this time, Francis Nichols, he was a patrician. That was part of his kind of a group. That was his little tribe. The second people or group that was running Louisiana was called the Louisiana Lottery Ring. Now, we still have the Louisiana Lottery. I don't know because I haven't played it because I don't live in Louisiana anymore. But even when I did live in Louisiana, I never ever played the lottery. Let me tell you why. And I've never, sorry, something in my throat. Sorry. So I never did because I feel as though if I'm going to go to the casino or if I'm going to gamble in any way, I might as well just take my money and light it on fire and let it go up in flames because I'm going to lose it. The house always wins. It always wins. Slot machines or anything kind of gambling or things like that, it is, you're taking a chance with your money. And I work hard for my money and I'm not going to go and set it on fire. So that's how I feel about gambling. I am not a gambler. I don't buy now, or I don't get lottery tickets or anything like that. You know, Texas, we don't really have anything like that. I don't get scratch off. I don't gamble because I truly believe I'm going to lose. The odds are not in my favor. If you want to like talk Mockingjay talk or Hunger Games, the odds are never in your favor. And I have better things to do with my money, like buy makeup, right? Than to go and burn it at, playing the lottery. But however, this is when the lottery comes into play. The Louisiana Lottery Company, the one that you see on TV, I don't know how often they have drawings. I think when I lived there, they did them every day, like pick 3 or pick 4. I know they have the Powerball, things like that, but I don't know. But this is when they start to come into play. Now, Louisiana needed money. After the Civil War, because most of the fighting in the Civil War all of the fighting in the Civil War took place really in the South. Now, Louisiana did not fare as badly as some other areas like Georgia or South, places in South Carolina and places like that. And that's because really, not Louisiana, but New Orleans and this whole lower Louisiana region, we didn't put up much of a fight. And so we didn't have the extreme burning through that Sherman did to Atlanta. We didn't have that here. However, we still had a lot to pay for. There was a lot of things that we needed money to pay for, to just, even if, especially now that Reconstruction's over and now Louisiana is in the hands of the Louisianians. And now it's saying, okay, you want to be in control. Now you're going to have to pay for this. You see, when we talk about governments, especially state governments, the federal government is the government that, and I'm going to go over civics a little bit with you. So the federal government is the United States government. Now they give states money. They do give states money for programs and for things like education, and there's military and things like that. We do get federal funding. However, we are state funded because we are an independent state, the United States of America. There are things that we have to fund for ourselves, for our own state. Now, while we do, like I said, we do get federal funding, we do need to actually rely on state funding as well. That's why, I don't know if you guys know, I notice this all the time because I'm going back and forth to Louisiana. I go through Shreveport. And I'm constantly going back and forth from the Shreveport line to the Texas line. If you've ever driven that highway, I don't even know which one it is. I think it's 80. I can't remember. I don't know. But if you're going that highway and the moment you cross the sign and it says, "Welcome to Louisiana," once you leave Texas, the roads, you've got so many potholes. It's like playing, oh, am I going to lose is my oil pan going to explode because there's so many potholes? But the moment you cross right back into Texas, you don't see that because Texas, the state of Texas, funds road construction. The state of Louisiana funds road construction. So this different states have different ways of allocating money. So whereas Louisiana would say, hey, we've got to put more money in education, or we've got to go put more money in defense or in trade rather than road construction. Texas, which is much bigger, says, hey, well, we've got a huge state here. We need to focus on some road construction too. So each state kind of does, it does pretty much independently with things in its own way, but it also does rely on the federal government too. Like when I have a teaching license, when I lived in Texas, well, I do live in Texas, but when I lived in Texas before and I taught physically at a school here in Texas, my Louisiana teaching license was not adequate. I had to get a Texas teaching license. And when I moved back to Louisiana to teach in Louisiana schools, I had to reactivate my Louisiana teaching license because my Texas teaching license was for this different state. So as you can see, the point I'm trying to make very long-windedly, as I do with most things, is that states are kind of responsible for their own kind of things too, okay? So Louisiana had to pay for running their state. Yes, we got federal funds, but that was not enough to continue to run the state, especially, after Reconstruction, we were trying to establish everything back again. So we had to make money. So one of the ways that they decided, the leaders in Louisiana had decided to make money was to set up a state lottery. Now, what the lottery was, if you don't know what the lottery is, because maybe some of you don't, I don't think my kids, I guess they know what it is. I don't know. But like I said, it's not big here in Texas. So what they would do is that you would go and you would pay, and back then, not going to be a lot of money. Like today, I think it's $1. If you want to go, whatever. Let's say you'd pay like 5 cents and you would write your name on the ticket, and then you'd get a receipt, and they'd put your name in this big barrel, okay? And you would have your number that you have. You'd have like the copy, and they'd roll the barrel, and they would pick one number, and they'd say, this person has won the lottery. Well, you would win a jackpot. A jackpot would be a percentage of what people put into it. So if you've got, let's say, 5,000 people buying a $1 ticket, okay? So then you have $5,000 right there. You will put into the drawing and say, okay, I'm going to pick a number. 5,000 people have given you $1, so you have $5,000. You're going to say, I'm going to pick one of these numbers for one of these people, and they're going to get $3,000. $2,000 go in your pocket because they're only going to win $3,000, but they only paid $1. So they get $3,000. That's a big return, and you as the state get $2,000. Okay, so you get to pocket that. That's how the lottery works. But now, in the United States, look at the Powerball. So when you get the Powerball jackpots, like $122 million, that you know how much more money the government or whomever who's running the Powerball, do you know how much they get? They're going to get more because that's how it works. The house always wins. So whereas the winner may walk away with $122 million before taxes, because taxes still come out of that money, whomever with the state, whatever states are part of that Powerball, they're going to get more money, trust me, than what you get because everybody is playing. So Louisiana started doing this, and they were making good money. They were like, yeah, this is a really good idea. And they started to make it like a big show about it, and a big to-do about it, big fancy things that people were excited. They thought it was fun. And then they started letting other places in the whole United States, to participate in the lottery because it was this fun thing for them to do and they could possibly win. So Louisiana was making bank dollars on the lottery system. Well, there was a problem because there were many people that said the lottery system is bad. We shouldn't be doing this because it was corrupt in a way because, with any kind of big institution like this, especially when there's no real regulation, and regulation means anybody watching them, you're going to have people, especially this time where there's nobody watching, they were going to, kind of put money in their pockets. And there was a lot of that going on. Plus, Louisiana, especially down in the New Orleans area, and even northern Louisiana places, we're very, very, very religious, especially, like I said, Catholicism way down in New Orleans. So they saw this gambling as something that was not good and they didn't want as part of their state. So while, yes, the lottery company was making Louisiana money, you still had people who were detractors and saying, I don't want this in my state. And because there was no regulation, nobody watching, there were people that were kind of abusing the system. It's kind of like my daughter, Kate. She is the most known cheater in any, I'm looking around because I'm like, no, I'm not, but she is. She will cheat any game. She will cheat. So we were playing Risk the other day, and I can't remember, but I had left the game board. And I was like, listen, I've got to go do something. Do not let Kate sit by that game because she will cheat. So we have to take pictures of like where all the little pieces were because we know that without us watching, Kate is for sure going to be like moving all the pieces around. So that's kind of what was going on with the lottery because there was no one watching. There was no one saying, okay, well, we, keeping an eye on this and how regulations. Eventually, though, these regulations did come to pass, and they did put these regulations there and say, hey, we've got to keep an eye on these people because something's going down. Like I said before, there was a lot of corruption with it. There was a lot of money to be made. There was issues about it. It was a great way to make money, but it was something that needed a lot more kind of tinkering with. And eventually that does happen, but it is a cause for concern. And I guess, excitement too in Louisiana in the very, very beginning of the Louisiana Lottery Company. So to kind of reiterate, the three people that were controlling Louisiana at this time were the people in the Louisiana Lottery Company, because they were making a lot of the money and giving a lot of the money to Louisiana. You had the patricians, which was your rich people, such as your governor of Louisiana, and you had your Bourbon Democrats, whose goal was to kind of bring Louisiana back to the way it was before the Civil War. Now, this was kind of, like I said, this was a big issue in Louisiana for many, many people, because a lot of them did not feel as though the government in Louisiana at this time represented them. The majority of people, like I said, in Louisiana were very, very poor. So they had these people that were representing and really running Louisiana who they felt had no idea what it was like to live life for them, to be a sharecropper or to struggle from day to day to just survive, because these people were all very, very wealthy, including the Bourbon Democrats. They were very wealthy. And when you have, a huge population of people and you have someone representing them that does not kind of fit with their ideals or they feel represents them, it's not going to be a good thing. That's one of the things that we have with representative democracy in this country. When you see, it was a big, 2018, last year, it was a huge big thing of electing Senate members and House members to represent us, because we as Americans have a representative democracy. We do not have a direct democracy. We have people that we elect to speak for us. So when we vote for a certain individual, so for like Louisiana, when you go and vote for a senator, when you go and vote for not Steve Scalise, I'm losing my mind. I'm having a brain fart. But whomever, if you go and vote for someone, so you would vote for the person that you feel most closely aligns with what you feel and what you think, someone that represents your thoughts and your ideals. So the people of Louisiana, the people that were running this state, the majority of them said, this is not at all what represents us. These people are going there and they're trying to make more money, and they're trying to make the rich richer. What are they doing for us, the poor people of Louisiana? And the answer at this time was very little, very, very little. And that's why the populist movement comes about and makes such a big splash, especially in places like Louisiana. So the Bourbon politics, though, the Bourbons were very, very, very influential. And even though Governor Nichols, who was the governor of Louisiana at this time, he worked with them because he had to. I mean, they were pretty much running parts of Louisiana. He was not thrilled about them. He didn't like the way that they did business a lot of times. He just didn't really like the whole lottery thing. He said it was a corrupt influence in state government. He wanted to revoke it. He wanted to get rid of it. I mean, he was just in a battle. I think personally what I believe is that it was just a fight for power. He didn't like that the Louisiana Lottery Company was, very powerful, whereas he is the governor. He should be the one in control. So that's what I personally believe. So they went back and forth, the Louisiana Lottery Company and the governor of New Orleans. The Bourbons as well, they didn't know which side to kind of go on. So it was, even though these three factions of people, the patricians, the Bourbon Democrats, and the Louisiana Lottery were in control and they were pretty much running Louisiana, there was not a harmonious family thing. It was, one person wanted to be more in control than the others. And that created a lot of tension, especially between Nichols as the governor and the lottery company, because the lottery company had a lot of influence because they had a lot of money. So the new constitution came about. They said, we're going to start a new constitution. We're going to adopt it. We're going to do this. So the thing was, though, is there were many more people that were loyal to the Louisiana lottery system than there were to Governor Nichols, because the Louisiana lottery system and their company had a lot of money, so they could buy votes. So even though the governor was the one in control of Louisiana, he can't just go ahead and make decisions. The governor cannot say, okay, I'm going to do this, 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 and this. Just like the president, he needs to get it approved through the Louisiana State Senate and the Louisiana House of Representatives. The lottery company had a lot of money, and they would tell these senators, not all, not everybody did it, but a lot of people did, or representative members, and saying, if you vote this way, we'll pay you X amount of dollars. If you vote this way, hey, if you support our bill, here's a check for so and so and so. And even though the governor, the guy, the highest executive branch, was the one supposedly in charge, the Louisiana Lottery Company could buy votes by promising, giving money in return for favorable voting. So when the Constitution of 1879 rolls around, Nichols is not happy with the lottery company. He wants to get rid of it. He says, I want to revoke their charter. Their charter was basically a way of saying to protect it. The charter made sure that the Louisiana Lottery Company could stay running in Louisiana, that no one could say, hey, get rid of it. It's kind of like a contract, okay? So like if you have a contract or you sign something and you try to break it, you may be faced with legal repercussions. You're going to have to pay or do something. You can't break. When you sign that contract, like say you're going to buy a car, okay? And you sign a contract with your bank saying, I'm going to agree to pay X amount of dollars each month until I pay off the amount of my car. And then you say, okay, no, wait, I don't even want to pay it. I'm not going to pay I'm not paying anymore. I'm getting rid of our contract. I'm ripping it up. Well, they're coming to take your car. They're going to repossess it, and you will be charged fees for breaking your contract. So a charter is kind of like a contract. So in the new Constitution of 1879, even though Nichols is the governor, the lottery company has a lot of votes. They bought a lot of votes. So what do you think, this new Constitution? Do you think that it was favorable to the lottery company or not favorable? Of course, it was favorable, guys, because they had all these votes. The lottery company had these votes. It was shelling out cash. And to Louisiana politicians, they weren't extraordinarily wealthy at the time. And so you're going to promise them a lot of money at this time. I'm not saying that all politicians, I'm saying what happened here. They, voted very favorably for things for the lottery company. Basically, these are some of the things that they did. They limited property taxes, which was good, I guess, for, the very wealthy, because they were the ones that had owned property. So they didn't have to pay a huge amount of property tax. Most of the people, the poor farmers, they had very, very little property to pay any little tax on. Some of the sharecroppers didn't have any property. But the big, big plantation owners and the very wealthy, they would have to pay a hefty property tax each year to the Louisiana state government. So the lottery company, their executives and the people that were running it were very, very wealthy. And so they were like, man, I don't want to have to pay this huge tax on my property every year. So guess what? In the new Constitution of 1879, they reduced the property tax that a parish could impose. The problem with this, however, is when they did this, that left even less money for roads, education, levees, railroads, public programs. There was we had little money to begin with. But with this new Constitution that was very favorable to the wealthy executives with the lottery board, the people in Louisiana were suffering because there was no money for education. There was no money for roads or for social programs or anything like that. There was nothing because they lowered the tax. And that was the way that they were paying and funding for these things. The new Constitution also wrote the lottery company into the Constitution, saying that in order to get rid of it, in order to remove the lottery company from Louisiana, they would have to agree and vote on a constitutional amendment to get rid of the lottery company. Well, that's outrageous, and that's very hard to do, okay? I mean, it's a long, drawn-out process, and because members of the Senate, members of the House of Louisiana were bought, basically, by the lottery company, the chances of that happening were slim to none. Now, what they did is they changed the date of the election for governor. during this constitutional time. So when they what they did is they basically changed the date for the election so that Nichols would be voted out, that he would not be governor anymore, because he had really ticked off the lottery company. And they're like, okay, you want to mess with us? We're going to mess with you. You want to try and shut us down? Guess who's getting shut down, Nichols? It's you. Okay? And then the other thing that they did, which is a big deal with this Constitution 1879, is they moved the state capital from New Orleans. That's where it was, right before the Civil War and even Reconstruction. I mean, we weren't really a state, but it was there. But they moved the capital back to Baton Rouge. And that was a big, deal, because that's exactly where it is today as well. Okay? So, one more thing we'll go over quickly. And then, actually 2 more things. So another way, Louisiana had to basically now figure out how they were going to make money. So, because they were not making it on taxes, and they weren't taxing, and by taxing, everybody hates taxes. Everybody's like, I hate paying taxes. Why are you doing this? Well, taxes, I'm not saying great taxes are wonderful. Of course, we're going to have a regulation on taxes. But when we pay our taxes, what they're supposed to go to is for social programs, federal funding, things such as education, roads, hospitals, healthcare, things like that we have as a state. That's what our taxes are supposed to go to. So when they're saying they're going to collect less taxes, and there's no real big income tax as far as wages like we have today, when they're going to reduce collecting the taxes, that means there's even less money rolling into the state. And this is where we begin to see that the other states start to become, if you look and you go and Google search or whatever, richest states in the United States, Louisiana is pretty much towards we're not at the top, okay? And that's because we're just a poorer state. That's what, basically boils down to that. We don't have the money that other states do to, make our schools, or like the very, very top states do. Like a state that has a lot of money can afford to do all kind of things that we as Louisiana, we just don't have in our budget. Okay? So when they start kind of messing with our budget right here, is when we begin to really see how we started to lose money for programs that we really, really, really needed. Now, I'm not saying, please do not think that I'm telling you, oh, this is how it is today. This is what's going on at this time, right now in this book, in the end of the, 19th century, or, the 1877 era. This is what's going on in Louisiana at this time. So now that the Civil War was over, now that Reconstruction was over, now that Louisiana was, a state again, the whole thing, everything's done. This is what's going on in our state as we try to reestablish ourselves in the United States. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be coming, especially in the turn of the century in the 1900s, that is, seriously affected by the lack of money that we have. Let me tell you these last 2 things, that we were making money, because we obviously weren't collecting it from taxes, was through convict leasing. And basically what it said is, with the convict leasing program, was that you could have convicts to come and work on your house, or to do something. If you're building something, you could hire convicts from Louisiana, which were people that were arrested, to come and do the work for you at a much lower cost. Now, you wouldn't be paying the convict. So instead of saying, okay, because this is something real that's happening in my house right now, there is this water, when it rains, is seeping through my door jamb. So I have to have it resealed. So rather, let's say that I lived in 1877 or 1880, and I wanted to get it fixed. Well, of course, I want the cheapest option. So instead of calling up, a service or whatever, or Rick's handyman service to come and reseal my door, I could call up the Louisiana jails and say, hey, I need about 6 guys to come and reseal my door. And whereas I would have to pay, like Rick's resealing company, and I have to pay them, let's say $500 to reseal my door, I would pay the Louisiana government $200 for convicts to come in and reseal it. And the money, like I said, would not go to the convict, it would go to the state. I would pay the state. And because that convict is now incarcerated and they're in jail, they would do this for free because it was part of their punishment. So this was a way that Louisiana was making money. However, the Louisiana prison system at this time was deplorable. And these convicts that were leased out to do work were treated awfully. I mean, like beaten and starved. And it wasn't like today. I mean, you could go to jail back then for not paying your bills. Okay? You would be there was jail that you could go to for things like that. So it was a very, very controversial thing, extraordinarily controversial. And they thought that it was basically slavery because you were forcing people of any race, color, or creed, whatever, to do this work and not give them any kind of pay and to force them, and it was really terrible. So that was a big, big thing. Another way that Louisiana was making money, but was extraordinarily controversial. So the two ways that Louisiana was making money at this time, both with the lottery company and convict leasing, were two extraordinarily controversial ways that everybody was like, I don't think so, and people were people were judging. Okay, they were judging. But like I had said before, the majority of people were in Louisiana were not felt as though they were not being adequately represented by Louisiana government. They thought that these people that were in charge were not really caring about them. So a new group forms, and their goal and what they say that they are going to do is they're going to represent the little guy in Louisiana. They're going to represent the poor farmer. They're going to represent the poor sharecropper or the family that's trying to make ends meet in order to put food on their table. They're going to represent them. They don't care about the very wealthy Bourbon Democrats or the patricians or the big rich people with the Louisiana lottery. They supported you as a Louisianian, and these people were called the populists. And they call that because they were popular. People liked them. And their goal was to represent the true, at this time, Louisianian. So that's all that I've got for you guys today. Here's your code word right here. Make sure that you put it in. Don't forget to be in class this week as we're going to talk more about these three factions. We're going to go over Louisiana as of the lost cause. If you're looking at your guided notes and you see the lost cause, you're like, I have no idea where that even is. It's right here. We're going to talk about that in class. Remember to, all my notes just flew out. Remember to use your index to find things. Also, just let me know if you guys have any questions. If you need me to go over any of this, if it didn't make any sense, just let me know. And I will see you guys in class. Happy New Year. And that's all. Vivi, show me, how are you a DJ? Show me how the DJ goes. Wow, what are you listening to?
Ariel, the beat music.
Ariel, the